Ninja Gaiden 2 Black on Steam Deck, thanks to KOEI TECMO for providing a code of the game. So this game was shadow dropped on PC and consoles. It's also available on Game Pass, but if you have SteamOS, Game Pass is not an option. When it comes to deck compatibility, Valve is still learning about the title, obviously, because it dropped out of the blue. If we go to the options, you'll notice that this is an Unreal Engine 5 game. But what you need in order to use the entire screen is to use the borderless mode, otherwise you're stuck to 16:9. It looks weird, and you only have 16:9 resolutions in full screen for some reason, so borderless will use the entire screen, 16:10, or whichever resolution you chose in the launch options. Then when it comes to settings, there is XeSS, no DLSS, TSR, FSR3. In my opinion, the best looking one here is XeSS. Unfortunately, in the Game Pass version on Windows, you won't have XeSS for some reason. XeSS balanced, no ray tracing, obviously. Shadows on standard, otherwise the shadows don't have any filtering to them. And then when it comes to global illumination, this is, I would say, the most demanding option. But if it's on light, in some maps there is no lighting whatsoever. It looks like the game doesn't have, again, lighting to it. I'll show you that in a moment. So I recommend you keep it on standard. Then foliage on standard and reflections as well. Then all these effects, personally, I'm not a fan, especially depth of field. I mean, it looks good in cutscenes, but once you get into combat and do an ultimate attack, it shows up and wrecks performance. So my advice is to turn it off, at least on the Steam Deck. Alright, welcome to Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. This is the cutscene. The first one is super taxing. I don't know why the first cutscene is like that. But then when the characters show up and all that, you'll be fine. The cutscenes are locked to 16:9, so you have lock bars on those. But once you get into gameplay, it's a little bit different. I fell through the ground for some reason there. And you might say, oh man, compromised resolution and you get 30 FPS even with lowered settings. Unfortunately, yes. I mean, this game, if you think about it, was originally released in 2008, but everything now is rendered using UE5. It was completely rebuilt, but to be seen in UE5. So you got all that ray tracing and stuff. As you can see here, the shadow has some shape to it when it comes to those searchlights. But if the shadows were on the lowest setting, basically the shadows were like big squares. So while I think on the Steam Deck you need to make sacrifices, I think in that case the game doesn't run that much better. We still drop below 40 very, very often. And well, unfortunately, what I'm trying to say is that there was no way to get 40s. On the lowest settings, you get 40s when there's nothing happening. But as soon as you get into combat, you'll start dropping below 40s very easily. Also, I've been playing the game quite a bit, so I have a few places to show you. This one in the village, that is daytime. At least to me, it looks like every other Unreal Engine 5 jungle-ish with foliage section, which I think is hilarious. But at the same time, we got foliage, a good bunch of shadows, and the global illumination can be put to the test. That's good in my opinion, but again, we're sacrificing a bit of performance to have consistent visuals. Again, when it comes to shadows, if they're not on normal, on standard, better said, they're basically unfiltered shadows that look horribly bad. It's clearly not meant to be played like that. And yeah, you get an improvement in performance, but again, you cannot keep 40 FPS even by putting it to the absolute lowest settings. And then you'll see on the left what it looks like with the global illumination on light in a place that bounce lighting is important. It loses all the depth to the scene, but again, there's a performance improvement. Then if we go to the city part, that is nighttime, if I disable global illumination, it's completely dark. But if I enable it, there's a little bit of bounce lighting and you can actually see the fog and stuff going on. So again, we're talking about an Unreal Engine 5 game, all things considered, better materials, the indirect lighting, all that, the classic. So by UE5 performance standards, I'll say it's okay on the Steam Deck. Again, as you can see there, it can drop when there is a lot of mayhem going on. And by mayhem, I mean a lot of blood on screen. That's why I think that you can disable the blood to get better performance, but I wouldn't because it adds so much to the visuals of the game, at least in my opinion. Back to what I was talking about before, I think a 30 FPS cap makes a lot of sense in this case. It's not great, in my opinion, playing Ninja Gaiden at 30 FPS. But it's a sacrifice you need if you want a balance of visuals and performance. I tried getting 40s and, well, you cannot get there by normal settings lowering. You need to use Ultra Performance XeSS, yeah, but Ultra Performance XeSS is 1/8 of the screen resolution. It looks very pixelated, and you also have to sacrifice the settings further. I think with shadows on standard and global illumination on standard, you get all the cool visual stuff while maintaining at least decent performance. And yeah, you're not getting 60s and 40s is achievable, while you need to sacrifice the resolution substantially. It's possible. It can still drop below 40 though, which is a bummer. But if you sacrifice the graphics enough and lower the resolution with Ultra Performance XeSS, you can kinda get there. The thing is, I wouldn't recommend it at that point. I would just play the originals. And by the originals, I mean the Master Collection that doesn't have any gore like this one. And visually is, of course, behind. This is a UE5 game. But I'll be doing the entire franchise on Steam Deck in a few days. In that video, I'll be doing Ninja Gaiden Black, Ninja Gaiden 2, the original, those emulated from the Xbox consoles. And I'll be also doing, well, the Master Collection on PC and this one, once again. So you can have an idea on how the entire franchise runs on deck. In my opinion, again, with that balance of visuals and performance, the game is pretty good considering it's a portable machine running a UE5 game. Great shadows, great shading, great models, lots of gore, which I love. To finish up this video, the absolute lowest settings with Ultra Performance XeSS. Again, in my opinion, I wouldn't play like this. I just don't like how pixelated it gets, plus you lose a lot of the shadows. The shadows draw distance is basically non-existent. They don't have any filtering to them whatsoever. So you can see the edges, the squares. If you zoom in a little bit there, you can see it. Even in the smaller screen, I think it's pretty obvious. And also the performance sacrifice to Ultra Performance is 1/8 of the screen's resolution, which feels much better to play, but it looks significantly worse. As you can see there, it still drops into the 40s. But anyway, in my opinion, Ninja Gaiden 2 is a fantastic game. This is what it happens with the shadows on low settings. The rate of the shadow is pretty low. But whatever, there's sacrifices that need to be made. But as you can see, despite being on the absolute lowest with Ultra Performance, XeSS and all that, it still drops into the low 40s. Okay, well, I think this game is fantastic and I love what they did with this port to UE5 with the gore and all that. I still recommend Sigma 2 on the Steam Deck, just due to the fact that the performance is significantly better. Obviously, the other one is the older version of the game that came out even on PlayStation 3. It's hilarious though to see the shadows on low, update and late. Don't care about that and just want to play the Ninja Gaiden 2 remaster on UE5 on the go. Well, you can do it by forcing an Ultra Performance, which means 1/8 of the resolution, disabling most of the shadows and lighting details, and you should be above 40s, but it drops into the low 40s pretty often. So anyway guys, that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did playing Ninja Gaiden 2 once again. It's a fantastic game. I love everything about it personally. because of the gore especially, as I said. Unfortunately, on Steam Deck, being a UE5 game, I recommend you put it at 30 to have some of the visuals still there. Otherwise, I think it just looks too pixelated. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys!